This is the Sony a7C II. So a couple of months ago, during the summer, I went on a trip back to my home country with my family. My home country being Bangladesh, and it was a family trip during the summer holidays. And during that trip, I bought some brand new camera gear because the conversion rate made it ridiculously cheap to pick it up, and I really didn't want to pass up the chance of getting super cheap camera gear, which would cost me almost double here in the UK. And the camera that I picked up was this guy. This is the Sony a7C II, and honestly, this has been a camera that I've had my eye on ever since it came out, and you could call it my dream photography camera because its compact size and the kind of specs that it has is absolutely perfect for what I need it for. So I'm going to talk about my experiences with this camera since I've gotten it, what I think about it, what I might not like about it. And like most of my review videos, this isn't going to be a tech heavy video. This is going to be more about my experience using this camera and the results that this thing has gotten. But to start, I am going to talk a little bit about what this camera is, what it's capable of, and some of its specs. So the Sony a7C II, like the name suggests, is a successor to the Sony a7C. The C in this case stands for compact. Now, the original Sony a7C was essentially a compact version of the Sony a7 III, which at the time was the top of the range camera for consumers. It had all the same kind of specs, but it came with a couple of differences. One of the things that this original Sony a7C introduced was this flip out screen, as well as this compact form factor, which made it nice and small and great for travel. And just like the original a7C was to the Sony a7 III, this is to the Sony a7 IV, meaning that it has the same exact sensor, that nice 33 megapixel sensor that the Sony a7 IV has, and it also means that it has all of the amazing hybrid features that the Sony a7 IV had, packed into this nice compact body, which is perfect for lightweight carry and travel. Now, that's enough of the specs because I think there's enough spec videos out there. What do I think about this thing? A little bit of a story time. Ever since this thing came out, I've had my eye on it. I've said that already. And the reason being is that even though I've got the Sony ZV-E1, and before this I had the Sony a7S III, which is a fantastic camera for video, I do enjoy myself some nice photography. And yes, the photos coming out of the ZV-E1 and the a7S III are sufficient enough for social media, but I just wanted a camera that was a bit more dedicated to photos, but had amazing video capabilities as well, where the photo was first and the video was second, unlike the a7S III and the ZV-E1, where video comes first and photo is second. And that's where this guy came in. I wanted something that was nice and compact so that I could carry it around with me pretty much anywhere, and also travel with me if I wanted to go traveling, or if I could go traveling. So I've got two small kids and it's really hard to find time to travel. And the a7C II is absolutely perfect for that. And since I've got it, I've basically chosen this over the ZV-E1 as kind of my everyday carry. Because not only is this very capable when it comes to taking photos, but it's also amazing with its video quality. It's capable of 10-bit 422, which matches the Sony ZV-E1 when you put it into S-Log3, and it can also record up to 4K 60, that be it with a slight crop. And the quality coming out of this in terms of video is absolutely amazing. You get really great clear image coming out of it, and you can color grade it really well because of that 10-bit dynamic range that it has, and it is perfect for somebody like me who's a content creator who does both video and photo. Does that mean that I don't use my Sony ZV-E1? Well, obviously not, because I'm using it right now. But when I'm taking it out for everyday carry where I know I'm going to be taking pictures, then I would choose the a7C II over the ZV-E1 any day. And that means if I'm out and about and I intend to take photos plus create content for my Instagram or YouTube, then having this on me is an absolute dream. The dials at the top, the functionality that it has makes it really easy to switch between photo and video. It has dedicated photo and video modes, as well as an S&Q mode for slow motion or time lapses and things like that. And because it's so compact, it's quite light, and it means it doesn't add a lot of bulk in my bag as part of my everyday carry. And when I pair it with something like this, the 16 to 25mm f2.8 lens from Sony, which is a Sony G lens, you get a really nice compact package. And if I want to go even more lightweight, I can pair it with something like this, which is the Viltrox 20mm, and you get this really nice tiny setup which you can essentially take anywhere with you, and most people will be none the wiser as to whether you're carrying a point and shoot or an almost professional grade camera. And having used it essentially since August, the photos that come out of this are amazing. I can understand why so many people have loved the a7 IV and now the a7C II, because it is such a great and capable camera when it comes to photography, because that 33 megapixel sensor is more than what you need for social media or for personal photography, but it's also capable of doing professional level photography, because I've taken this and I've used it for professional photography as well, and clients have not complained. You can see here some of the shots that I've taken when I've been out and about in London, as well as some other stuff that I've photographed with this, and the quality speaks for itself. And coming to video, even some of the content that you've seen on my channel has been filmed with this thing, and I can just say that there are absolutely no complaints. The quality rivals ZV-E1, and it means that I can get really great looking matching footage from both of my cameras. Combined with the ZV-E1, I think this is an absolute dream compact combo for any sort of content creator who's looking to run a 2-camera setup and can afford one. You might think it's a little bit overkill to have this and a Sony ZV-E1, but hey, I'm a bit of a tech junkie, so I can't help but have both. So by now you can probably tell, overall, I absolutely love this camera. It's amazing, it's compact, it does everything I needed to do, and it's got fantastic quality photo and video capabilities. But what are the things that I don't like? Now, most people don't like this little EVF thing. Now, personally, I don't use the EVF. Despite being a millennial, I don't like having this up to my eye. I have glasses on, which makes it a little bit more annoying to use EVFs and viewfinders, but this does have this amazing tilty screen, which obviously is more than enough for me as a content creator. If I'm going to be vlogging with it, if I'm going to be taking low shots, high shots, whatever it is, I've got the tilty screen to be able to see. If I've got the screen, I don't really need to look into the viewfinder, which I've heard isn't actually very good compared to the full-size body cameras. But hey, that's one of the limitations that most people would see, but for me, it's not an issue. But for me, something that is a bit of an issue, and a feature that I really would have loved for this camera to have, is 4K 120 or 4K 60 uncropped. Even though it is completely usable and it's still very high quality, I sometimes find it to be a little bit limiting, because if I'm using a wide lens like a 16mm and I want to get slow motion in 16mm, then the 4K 60 means that I can't do that, because it does crop in. Even though it's not a lot, it still crops, and I'm not getting the full width that I'm wanting to get from it in that 60 FPS mode. It's not the biggest issue, but I am also used to having the 120 FPS with the Sony ZV-E1 and previously the Sony a7S III that I had, and not having that as part of my everyday carry can also sometimes be a little bit limiting, because I do often want to throw my camera into 120 FPS and film in super slow motion. So again, not having something like that in a camera like this is a bit limiting, and I really don't know why Sony chooses to continue putting a cropped 60 FPS into its cameras when you've got cameras like the Sony a6700 and the FX30, which all have 120 FPS in 4K, but this doesn't. So it's a little bit odd to me why they make the choices they do. Maybe it's a sensor issue, maybe it's a processor issue, I don't know, but it would have been nice to have 120 FPS in this. Now, a couple of features that I do like, some of which I haven't actually used enough of, but it's cool to have. Number one is the AI face tracking. The AI tracking on this thing is absolutely amazing. Having that reassurance that you can just set up your camera and it will just track you is just so good to have, because you can set this up or point it at whatever subject you've got, and that AI tracking essentially just takes care of it for you. And having that during a shoot, or whilst you're vlogging, or whilst you're filming yourself, is just the handiest thing on the planet. Not to mention, it has features like the AI reframing as well, where you can set it up and set it to reframe. It means that the camera will actually reframe the footage to track wherever you're going. So it will follow you along and reframe to crop into your face or crop in to your body, and you can set how far it crops, etc., all of that kind of stuff. And it's a great feature to have, but I actually haven't used it as much as I probably should, but it is something that's handy to have and handy to know that it has. And these are features that the Sony a7 IV doesn't actually have, and that's what actually makes this camera so great. I know a lot of creators who have actually just switched completely to using the Sony a7C II, and even when I was out doing the research and asking other creators what should I do in terms of getting the Sony a7C II, even though I've got the ZV-E1, a lot of them even just said, just get rid of your ZV-E1 and stick to the Sony a7C II, because it can do both. Just make this your primary camera. But the tech nerd that I am, I really love my ZV-E1 and I want that as my primary camera because of the video capabilities it has. And I'm more of a video focused content creator. So having the ZV-E1 and knowing that I've got the features that that has, as well as the features that the Sony a7C II has, is absolutely great. It's just that added a little bit of reassurance for me, knowing that I've got a 2-camera combo where if one fails, I've still got the other to use. So to summarize, I think it's probably one of the best cameras that's come out in recent years at a relatively affordable price, and even more affordable for me because I got it from Bangladesh for about £800 less. Brand new retail. Yes, it is genuine. Bangladesh isn't as third world as some of you might think it is. But yeah, the camera is absolutely great and I've had so much fun using it. And with this and the ZV-1, I'm pretty much sorted for all of my content creation needs when it comes to cameras, because I've got two super great full frame cameras that I can use for all of my creation. This guy has not disappointed me. It's literally been continuously in my bag ever since I got it, and I don't see myself letting go of it anytime soon. And when you pair it with something like the 16-25 that I've got on here right now, as well as this Sigma 50mm f1.4, which are the two lenses that I actually got with it when I bought it from Bangladesh, I've got a beautiful camera for both video and photo. So there you have it. As always, I've blagged a little bit probably in this video, but I hope that it's gotten through to you what this camera is capable of, exactly what this camera can do, what its pros and cons are. If you guys have any comments or questions about this camera or anything that I've talked about in this video, then make sure you leave a comment down below. And if you guys want to see an even more detailed, in-depth breakdown of this camera and its uses, then let me know and I will get along to making one of those. Until then, I hope this video has been useful for you. I hope you've taken away something from it. I hope it's inspired you to get a Sony a7C II if that's what you've been after, because I highly recommend getting one of these. It's probably one of the best cameras of its type out right now, and an amazing hybrid camera for those of you who want both photo and video in one package. And if you did like the video, then make sure you hit that like button. And if you want to see more videos on tech, cameras, and content creation, make sure you're subscribed. Until next time, this is Kai24 signing out.